For decades, the economic relationship between Europe and the United States was the backbone of global commerce. European cars entered American markets while American technology powered European industries, a stable axis for the world economy. But this alliance is fraying. The election of Donald Trump and his America First doctrine accelerated a growing divergence. The U.S. began to see trade deficits as weakness, not a natural part of global trade, and started erecting barriers. European leaders suddenly faced the reality that their most important trading partner was becoming unpredictable. Now, Europe is urgently reassessing its dependencies, looking eastward for new growth and stability. The quest for strategic autonomy has begun, not to decouple from the US, but to rebalance and secure Europe's future. The Trump administration's tariffs hit like an earthquake, sending shockwaves through the global economy and upending decades of established trade relationships. Almost overnight, the world's trading system was shaken to its core, as uncertainty rippled across continents and markets scrambled to adapt. In 2018, the US imposed steep tariffs on steel and aluminum from close allies, including the EU, justifying the move on grounds of national security. A rationale that surprised many and left European leaders scrambling for answers. This bold move triggered a full-blown trade war, with billions of dollars in European exports suddenly at risk, and entire industries thrown into uncertainty. Iconic products like French wine and Italian cheese were caught in the crossfire, their access to American consumers restricted, leaving producers and exporters in limbo. The looming threat of auto tariffs created deep anxiety for Germany's car industry, a pillar of Europe's economy and a symbol of its industrial strength, raising fears of job losses and declining exports. The tariffs exposed Europe's vulnerability, revealing just how much the continent relied on a single massive market for its prosperity and growth. For family-run vineyards and olive groves, the American market had long been a lifeline. Now, it was suddenly out of reach, threatening livelihoods and traditions passed down through generations. The shock forced the EU to urgently rethink its economic model, sparking intense debates about how to protect European interests in a more unpredictable world. Seeking stability, Europe began to look eastward, searching for new, more reliable partners who could help fill the gap left by the US market. The pivot to Asia became an urgent priority, not just to offset immediate losses, but to secure Europe's long-term future in a rapidly changing global landscape. European policymakers realized that true resilience required diversification, spreading risk across multiple markets instead of depending on just one. The old comfort of transatlantic trade was gone, replaced by a new era of uncertainty and adaptation. Europe's search for new markets was now a matter of survival, driving innovation and new partnerships at a pace never seen before. The shift to Asia was no longer optional, it had become essential, marking a turning point in Europe's economic story and reshaping its place in the world. Facing uncertainty in the West, the EU turned decisively toward Southeast Asia, ASEAN. ASEAN's 10 nations, with over 650 million people and a booming middle class, offered Europe a vast, dynamic market. The EU signed free trade agreements with Singapore and Vietnam, eliminating tariffs and opening new opportunities. Negotiations with Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand are underway, weaving Europe into Asia's economic fabric. Vietnam's manufacturing, Singapore's finance, and Indonesia's huge market are now key to Europe's strategy. This pivot is about more than trade. It's about building a coalition of partners who value open, rules-based commerce. For Europe, ASEAN is now a cornerstone of its 21st century economic plan. The EU-ASEAN partnership is about more than cutting tariffs. It's a blueprint for future economic cooperation. In 2022, the two blocs elevated their relationship to a strategic partnership, focusing on digital and green transitions. Digital trade is central. Common standards for data, cybersecurity, and e-commerce open new markets for both sides. European tech firms gain access to Asia's digital boom, while ASEAN benefits from European investment and expertise. The green transition is equally vital, with joint efforts on renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and green tech. Europe exports its green expertise, ASEAN accelerates its sustainable growth. These initiatives build resilient, future-proof supply chains. By investing in digital and green technology, Europe and ASEAN are creating a deeply integrated, shock-resistant economic ecosystem. This partnership is Europe's strategic move to de-risk its future and diversify its global ties. The effects of this pivot are visible in everyday products. German automakers, once focused on the US, are now building factories in Thailand and Indonesia to serve Asian markets and avoid US tariffs. Spanish olive oil, priced out of America by tariffs, now finds new customers in Vietnam thanks to EU-Asia trade deals. European steel, hit by US tariffs, is now shipped to fuel Southeast Asia's infrastructure boom. These shifts are more than numbers. They're changing shipping routes, investment flows, and what's on store shelves worldwide. European industries are adapting, forging new pathways for their products. The center of economic gravity is moving from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This is a story of resilience and adaptation. The journey of a car, a bottle of oil, or a steel beam now traces the new map of global trade. At the heart of this global transformation are Southeast Asia's bustling ports, Singapore and Jakarta. These two cities have become vital links in the ever-evolving world of international trade, serving as crucial gateways between continents and shaping the future of commerce. Singapore, already recognized as one of the world's top global ports, stands as the main entry point for European goods flowing into Asia. Here, everything from high-end luxury products to essential medical equipment is efficiently distributed across the region, fueling economic growth and connecting millions of consumers to global markets. Meanwhile, Jakarta, the vibrant capital of Indonesia, is undergoing a major transformation. The city is investing heavily in upgrading its port infrastructure to handle the rapidly increasing volume of trade with Europe, positioning itself as a rising star in the global logistics network. Significant EU investment is flowing into these ports, modernizing not just the physical infrastructure but also the logistics and technology that keep goods moving. This makes it easier and faster for products to travel in both directions, strengthening economic ties between Europe and Asia. Together, these ports form the backbone of a new maritime Silk Road, a dynamic trade corridor that connects Europe's factories and industries directly to Asia's booming markets, fostering unprecedented economic cooperation and opportunity. Shipping routes are being redrawn on the world map. Rotterdam's ships, which once primarily sailed to New York, now just as frequently set course for Singapore, reflecting the shifting balance of global trade. Logistics networks are rapidly reorienting, with major investments in new, larger vessels and cutting-edge digital systems. These innovations are designed to handle the booming trade corridor and ensure goods move swiftly and securely. The Suez Canal and the Strait of Malacca are becoming even more critical, serving as key arteries in this new global network. Their rising importance is helping to create a more distributed, resilient, and flexible system for international shipping. The cranes and ships working tirelessly in these ports are more than just machines. They are the driving force behind a historic economic realignment, powering the next era of global trade and prosperity. Europe's pivot to ASEAN signals a new era in global affairs, one where old alliances are being reimagined and new partnerships are taking center stage. This shift is not just about economics, but about forging deeper political and cultural ties that will shape the decades to come. The US-dominated post-Cold War order is over. We now live in a multipolar world with many centers of power. No single nation can dictate the rules. Today, influence is shared, negotiated, and constantly evolving among a diverse group of players. America's protectionism didn't end globalization, it rerouted it. Trade flows have adapted, finding new pathways and partners, as businesses and governments seek out fresh opportunities beyond traditional borders. Europe's partnership with ASEAN is redrawing the global economic map, weakening the old transatlantic axis. This realignment is creating new corridors of commerce and innovation, linking cities and industries in ways that were unimaginable just a decade ago. As European businesses invest in Asia, their interests and political calculations shift. These investments foster not only economic growth, but also mutual understanding and shared goals, making the relationship more resilient to global shocks. The world is moving from a US-centered hub to a network of interconnected hubs. This web of connections allows for greater flexibility, enabling countries and companies to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. The US will remain powerful, but it must adapt to a more competitive, complex landscape. Success will depend on collaboration, innovation, and the ability to navigate a world where influence is more widely distributed. The future of trade is about diversification and resilience, no more over-reliance on a single partner. Companies and countries alike are building supply chains that can withstand disruptions, ensuring stability in uncertain times. The EU-ASEAN alliance is a model for this new reality, a web of partnerships, multiple engines of growth, and a more stable global economy. By working together, these regions are setting the standard for cooperation in a rapidly changing world. The world ahead will be more complex but also more balanced and shock-resistant. As nations and businesses embrace this interconnected future, they lay the groundwork for prosperity and stability for generations to come.